Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we are strapping on the virtual bass, I guess you could say. We're taking a deep dive into the source material you shared on the MXR M287 sub-octave bass fuzz.
Ah, the M287, yeah.
Right, and our mission really is to figure out why this particular pedal, launched back in 2016, kind of became a benchmark, for bassists wanting that huge, aggressive, almost synth-like sound, but, and this is a big, but without sacrificing the fundamental low end.
That's really the whole story right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Solving that low-end problem. I mean, every bassist knows the feeling.
Yeah.
You step on a great fuzz pedal and poof.
Yeah, gone.
Your booming low E just vanishes. It turns into this thin, angry buzz. So the M287, it's not just another fuzz. It's this really ambitious all-analog hybrid.
Hybrid, okay.
Yeah, engineered specifically to get around that classic trade-off. We're going to explore how MXR managed to blend like aggressive silicon fuzz with a pretty precise sub-octave, while somehow giving you total control over the clean signal at the same time.
And the origins are pretty interesting here too, right? Because it didn't just appear out of nowhere in 2016.
No, exactly. It followed groundwork. MXR laid with the M288 Bass Octave Deluxe. That was 2009.
Right, the octave part.
And then the M85 Bass Distortion in 2015. So they clearly saw a need, a demand for fusing those two ideas.
But the sources mentioned a partnership. That seems key.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That partnership is kind of the secret sauce, I think. MXR's own Bass Innovations division, right? They teamed up with Ryan Ratatsky.
From Fuzz Roche's pedals.
Exactly. Fuzz Roche's. And that was smart. You get MXR's, rock solid build quality, low noise design.
A reliability.
Yeah, the reliability. And you blend that with Fuzz Roche's rep for boutique, sometimes really gnarly, aggressive dirt circuits.
Okay, so it's this blend of like industrial strength and boutique flavor. And the big claim they were making was all about that low-end precision.
Totally. It was pitched as the answer for bassists needing that really rich, fuzzy growl, but who absolutely could not lose their place in the mix. Rock solid low end, plus flexible control. That was the goal.
They were trying to solve that age-old problem of fuzz just disappearing, especially live or in a dense recording.
Precisely. Think about like doom metal or stoner rock. The bass needs to be an earthquake. Right.
Fundamental.
Not just some buzzing fly in the background. The whole design philosophy of the M287 seems built around nailing that.
All right, let's dig into the mechanics then, because the core, as you said, is this all-analog triple-path design. Now, that sounds complicated on paper.
It does, yeah.
How do 3 circuits running at once not just turn into mud? Or like a nightmare to control lie?
Right. Well, that stability, that clarity, that's kind of the M287 superpower.
Right.
And it really comes down to them choosing parallel processing instead of sequential.
Okay, so parallel, meaning?
Meaning your bass signal hits the input and boom, it instantly splits 3 ways into 3 totally independent, dedicated analog channels running at the same time.
Oh, okay, not one after the other.
Exactly. And that's where the magic happens. And also how they make it less complex for the user, strangely enough.
So tell us about those 3 channels. How does it feel simple if there are 3 things going on?
It feels simple because of the controls. So path 1 is the dry path. That's just your clean, untouched bass signal. Your anchor tone.
Keeps the clarity.
Right. Ensures the fundamental note is there. Path 2 is the octave path. That's the sub-octave circuit. And yeah, they did derive it from their M288 Bass Octave Deluxe, which was already well regarded.
Okay, but wait. If they just ripped the circuit from the M288, wouldn't it just sound like, well, an M288 pedal plus a fuzz pedal next to it? Where's the synergy?
That's a really sharp point. And it brings us to this fascinating little detail in the source material. It's important. While the core circuit is M288, they actually tweaked the filtering stage, specifically for the M287. They added this modification that boosts harmonics right around 120 hertz.
120 hertz. Okay, why there?
Well, that specific boost seems engineered to give the octave signal its characteristic growl. That's the word they use.
Yeah.
When it's mixed with the silicon fuzz. It wasn't just tacked on. It was designed to blend, to interact with the fuzz circuit.
Okay, that makes sense. So they're tuning the circuits to work together harmonically.
Yeah.
Clever. All right, back to the paths. What's the third one? The noisemaker.
That's path 3.
Jeez.
The fuzz path. A dedicated silicon fuzz circuit capable of, massive gain, that kind of vintage compression you get with silicon.
Right.
And here's where the control flexibility comes in, addressing your point about complexity, because they're parallel. Each path, dry, octave, and fuzz, gets its own dedicated level knob, clearly labeled.
Ah, okay. So dry level, octave level, fuzz level. That is simple.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway on control. You can dial in anything, just a hint of sub under a clean tone.
Yep.
Slam at the fuzz and then just bring in a touch of octave to reinforce the lows. Easy. You have total mix control.
You're basically running a mini mixer inside the pedal.
Pretty much. An analog mixing desk for these 3 specific sounds all in one box. And importantly, even though it can create chaos, when you switch it off, you get true bypass.
Clean signal path.
Yep. And they used low noise op amps.
Yeah.
So even when it's off, it's studio level quiet. That speaks to the MXR reliability side of that Fuzzrocious collaboration,
Right, the pro level bit. Okay, so we know how to mix the levels. Let's talk texture. The feel of the distortion. That fuzz switch is crucial, right? It's not just a tiny EQ tweak.
Oh, absolutely not. It fundamentally changes the fuzz character. And this is really important for matching it to your genre or playing style. You get 2 distinct fuzz modes.
Okay, what are they?
First is warm mode, described as dark, smooth, kind of vintage aggressive.
Dark fuzz on bass. I mean, if we're fighting for clarity, why go dark? Seems counterintuitive.
Or context, right?
Yeah.
The warm mode gives you that really rich, almost woolly fuzz, rounded highs. It's meant to sound like those classic 70s big muff bass tones.
Okay. Like early stoner rock doom.
Exactly. Where the texture itself needs to feel thick, heavy, compressed. Like a wall of sound. And remember,
Its dry signal is still there.
the dry signal is still there, providing the actual note clarity. The warm fuzz is purely for that massive heavy layer.
Gotcha. So it's a textural choice for genres needing weight over cutting edge. Okay, so flip the switch.
Now you're in bright mode, described as crisp, cutting, definitely more modern sounding.
Okay.
This mode boosts the highs and upper mids. It's a totally different beast, engineered specifically to slice through a dense mix.
So like for pick players or punk, modern rock.
Yeah, exactly. If you need your bass line to really snap and articulate, even with fuzz on, this is probably the voicing you want. It gives you that attack without completely washing out the fundamentals.
You need to clarify the tone knob's function here too, because it's a bit unusual.
Good point. Yeah, the dedicated tone knob, it only adjusts the brightness of the fuzz signal.
Just the fuzz path.
Just the fuzz pass, which is actually brilliant design-wise. You can radically change how sharp or smooth your dirt sounds without messing with the crucial low frequencies coming from the octave and the dry paths. You don't accidentally scoop your lows while trying to make the fuzz brighter.
That's really smart. Keeps everything independent. Okay, so you've got this controlled blend, these different fuzz textures, that special 120 hertz octave growl. What's the overall sound profile like in a band context?
Well, the result is definitely thick, aggressive, really harmonically dense. When you get the mix right between the 3 paths, the sources often describe it as a synth-like growl and sustain.
Synth-like, okay.
It creates this big wall of sound, but, and this is the recurring theme, the most crucial element is that low-end stability. That dry path ensures that no matter how much gain you pile on,
The fundamental stays put.
your fundamental neck keeps its punch and definition, you get all the fuzz aggression, none of the sonic void underneath.
And what about the octave tracking? Analog octavers can be notoriously glitchy, especially on low notes.
Always the worry, yeah. The sources generally say the M287's octave circuit tracks really well, especially above low A. That's around 55 hertz.
So most of the standard bass range.
Pretty much. For best results, though, players noted the usual stuff. Tracks best with the neck pickup. Needs a strong, clear attack. It's the standard deal for good analog octave tracking, but its reliability is considered pretty high for an analog circuit.
Now, obviously, the main user is a bassist. Doom, stoner, funk, experimental stuff. It seems ideal.
Absolutely.
But that triple path design, it feels like it could be useful beyond bass, right?
Oh, for sure. It definitely moved beyond just the bass world pretty quickly. Because that kind of parallel analog processing is just useful. Guitarists started using it.
Really?
Creating this unique octave fuzz chaos, kind of like mixing an old Octavia with maybe a bass big muff. Especially for players tuning low or doing ambient droney stuff, it just adds massive texture.
And in the studio, where you're not limited to a pedal board.
Yeah, in the studio, it apparently works great as an insert effect. You can run synths through it, even drum buses.
Drum buses, wow.
Yeah, using that 3-path system lets engineers do cool parallel processing tricks, like maybe send only the sub-octave signal to add weight to a snare, or use just the fuzz path to dirty up a parallel drum mix. That kind of flexibility usually takes more complex gear than a single pedal.
It sounds like this thing made a splash pretty quickly when it landed. What was the reaction? Why did it become a favorite so fast?
I think its success was really utilitarian. It just flat out solved a huge common problem for bassists. So, number one, massive praise for keeping the clean low end intact under heavy fuzz. That was the main failing of so many fuzzes used on bass before.
Right.
And number two, The combination of tight octave tracking and really good noise performance, even at high gain, that cemented its reputation as a pro-level tool.
And the online gear forums, things got pretty heated, didn't they? Comparisons were made.
Oh, yeah. Heated is one word for it.
Yeah.
Analog purists, especially, really championed the M287. You saw it described pretty often as, like, the dark glass killer.
Wow, okay, strong words.
Very strong. Now, it wasn't because it sounded exactly like dark glass gear, but because it offered a similar level of modern flexibility, controlling the blend of distortion and clean tone, but achieved it using purely analog circuitry.
Ah, so it was the analog aspect versus maybe more digital or compressed approaches.
That seemed to be the core of the comparison, yeah. Retaining that perceived warmth and organic saturation of all analog stuff while still giving you surgical control. It contrasted with competitors maybe using more digital components or heavy compression.
So that analog warmth versus digital precision, that was the M287's niche.
I think so.
Huh.
Unlike, say, the Source Audio Aftershock, which is an amazing pedal with tons of drive options via digital processing and presets, the M287 delivered that mixed flexibility and voicing choice while staying completely analog. Kind of bridged the gap, you know, between old-school tone guys and modern players needing precise control.
And it showed up on some pretty serious pedal boards.
Absolutely. You see it with players like Juan Alderete
Mars Voltaire.
and Tim Lefebvre, who played with David Bowie. When guys like that adopt a pedal, it's a pretty strong signal about its usefulness and its sound quality.
So looking back at everything, the Fuzz Roaches team up, the 3 parallel pads, that specific 120 Hertz tweak in the octave filter. It really feels like it was meticulously designed for bass players.
It really does. It feels holistic.
Yeah.
They didn't just stick 3 effects in a box. They seem to have engineered them to interact harmonically. The M287 really did set a new standard, I think, for analog bass effect versatility.
Yeah.
It unified fuzz, octave, and clean blend really intuitively.
And managed to deliver both those vintage woolly sounds and the sharp modern synth bass tones.
Yeah, appealing across a huge spectrum of players.
We've seen how those separate level controls let you sculpt basically anything from just a subtle sub-rumble to a full-on modern synth bass attack just by mixing 3 analog signals. It's like a mini powerhouse of parallel analog processing.
Right. And that actually leads to a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. Building on that parallel processing idea. If this all-analog pedal is so good at internally mixing its fuzz and octave circuits into one complex analog waveform, what happens if you treat that final blended output as a brand new single complex signal?
Meaning run the M287 into something else.
Exactly. Take that full, aggressive, carefully mixed signal coming out of the M287 and run it into a second, totally separate modulation effect, maybe a cool phaser or a weird granular delay, something that processes the entire complex waveform as its input. What kind of wild, unpredictable, massive textures could that unlock in your next recording session or jam? Treating the whole pedal's output as one new voice, that's something to mull over.